Hello, my name's Hemingway Jones. Welcome to the channel. I am on a handwriting journey. I am trying to learn everything I can about the different styles of writing, different letter forms, different ways of putting pen and ink on paper, especially with a fountain pen. And along this journey, I discovered what is known as crosswriting. So crosswriting is a technique where you write in one direction, then turn your page and write it in another. It was very popular in the 18th and 19th centuries for various reasons. The most popular is to save paper, but there were also some very wealthy people that were doing it as well. So I personally believe that another reason why they were doing it is because it looked really pretty, really interesting, and it was just a way for your words to stand out a bit. So I think those beauty considerations were just as important then as they are now. So I would like to share with you today what I consider to be the ultimate expression of crosswriting, a very balanced, beautiful way of doing it, anticipating that you're going to put the words on in another direction. So join me today, won't you, as I dive in to the ancient and beautiful art of crosswriting. So we're going to start, as we always do, with our tools. And you see I'm using onion skin paper. Now this particular onion skin paper is quite old, so I would recommend that you seek out some new onion skin paper from the Onion Skin Journal site, where you can find really nice paper stock. This will do, though it is a little faded, but what we need is paper that's very strong, that has a nice finish, and is nearly transparent. It's definitely going to help us today. And along with this, we are using our Clairefontaine French ruled paper because it has a grid, basically a grid effect. So this will help us by putting the onion skin paper over it, and you can see a nice line in either direction. So this will help with our multi-directional writing. Along with this too, I've actually prepared a page with a Birmingham Pen Company paperclip for a little inspiration. Who doesn't love a fountain pen nib paperclip? And for pen today, we are using the beautiful Mont Blanc 147 Traveler in Bordeaux. And why are we using this pen? Because it has a fine nib, a very beautiful fine nib, and I think it makes it perfect for this kind of writing. I also have red ink in here because between you and me, I really haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to use another ink on top of it. Because one way that you can show that it's written in two different directions and make it very legible is by using two different ink colors. That makes it very, very legible. Okay, so let's start and we'll talk a bit about handwriting and everything else along the way while we do. All right, always fun to use this pen. I absolutely adore it. So this is a very nice way to write. We want to make it perhaps a bit larger than normal. We want to make some negative space so that we can write in between everything. So you might want to drag out your letters a little bit more than you normally would and try to keep things very, very uniform. This nib makes a fantastic scribing noise, especially on this onion skin paper. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to go directly below it. I think I do. Now, if you can help it, try to keep your slant consistent. This has always been a challenge for me. But it will make it that much more striking, beautiful, and interesting once we marry the two different directions together. I did go off the edge a little bit there. Here we put a cursive question mark. It just makes it a little bit more in line with everything else we're doing. So I'm pretty happy with how this is going. I think it's fairly consistent, certainly for me. I do have an issue with my hand where I sometimes have numbness in my first finger and my thumb, and it can make it very difficult for me to hold a pen, to guide a pen properly. But I've been doing pretty well lately, and I'm enjoying these moments because I don't know if they're fleeting or not. I am definitely enjoying it. So it was thought that this style of writing was meant to save paper, but I'm not wholly convinced that that's the only reason. I just see it too often then. I really think it was more of a technique. It was more of another way for people to express themselves, where certainly people were trying to save money on paper. But I also think that there is this sort of culture of making the most of something then. And I mean this in two senses. One is you don't waste paper, both because it's expensive, but also because it's wasteful to waste paper. So you would use it productively as you could, and also you would make the most of it aesthetically and make it as beautiful as you could. And I think that's why things like neat handwriting were held in such high esteem. And also crosswriting had a lot of critics then, but they had to have also recognized that it was beautiful as much as we do today. This is me writing as quickly as I can while trying to maintain my style. Usually when I write fast, I lose it. So even in those days, people were very critical of crosswriting because it is difficult to read. Although it's sort of like a figure ground experiment where if you look at it one way, it looks like something, you look at it another, it looks like something else. Well, similarly, once you read it in one direction and then you turn it and then you focus only on the lines and that which is happening in the direction of what you're reading now, it all does disappear and you do sort of learn to see the letters in the chaos. And it's a beautiful chaos. And then you just sort of appreciate it in its form. It looks a little bit like a geometrical puzzle. There are a few techniques where the writing that's overlaid can come out a bit more. I've mentioned that you can use a different color ink. You can also use a different line width. You could use a flex nib and use some very demonstrative downstrokes to separate it from the rhythms of the writing that was going in the other direction. You could also write a bit more stretched out to make it that much more flowing, where it fills in the spaces between the words. Okay, so now we're at the end of the page, and we're just going to pretend like we're all the way at the bottom. And now we're going to change it so that we write the other direction. I was considering using a different color ink, but I think I'm going to stick with the red just to make it a very pure form. But just keep in mind, it's a technique that you can use for certain. But what's nice about this grid in this French ruled paper is that we don't have to do anything to turn it. In other guides that I use and other translucent papers, it's certainly not as easy to see through Tomoe River paper as it is onion skin paper. And also using this grid, you don't have to readjust your guidelines beneath the page, which can be a bit of a hassle and you try to line it up and whatnot. Here it's an actual grid, or you could use some other grid paper, but it certainly makes a big difference. Okay, so now we're going to begin writing across, and it's always the scariest part. And you really need to do it with bravado. You just need to thrust yourself into it and not worry so much what it looks like. And there's really two schools on this. One is you just write in the same hand as you have been writing this entire letter, and your letters they'll appear, they'll rise above the cross strokes. The other is that you stretch it out a bit and you fill up the blank spaces. That gives you sort of an elongated ribbon of letters and words that rise above your page. In this case, I'm going more for symmetry, so I am going to just write across as best I can, bravely, and finish my letter. This is very scary because I feel like it doesn't look very good. And I'm afraid that I've ruined my letter. But I have faith because I've done this before. Another thing about crosswriting and writing in those days is that letters were very much an event. So when you received it, you were so excited to hear from this person because it could have been years, months since you've had any word from them last. And so sitting down and even deciphering their words would be an enjoyment and a connection in itself. So deciphering, looking into it, bringing out the message and the words would be almost an act of intimacy because you would be just craving contact with this person. I'm going to move it a little bit, make sure we can see everything. It's already looking very, very beautiful. You know, one of the things that made me think about crosswriting again is that I've been doing a lot of research into Jane Austen and her handwriting, her correspondence. And, you know, the amazing thing is I've yet to read a Jane Austen book. So this is sort of an undiscovered country for me whose borders I am approaching. And I'm doing it, as I often do, through the lens of handwriting, ink, and journaling and fountain pens. So it's an interesting way to come into a classic writer like Jane Austen. Another thing that's very important about crosswriting is that it plays on that function in our brains where if you take certain letters away, you can still read a bit of writing. I mean, you could probably take 40% of some of the letters out of words and you'd still be able to read it. And I believe with crosswriting, it sort of functions in the same way because there's some letters that you probably won't quite be able to make out, as there are anyway in people's handwritings. So you just sort of need to open your mind to the flow and just allow the letters to emerge. And once you get in sync with that person's handwriting, the direction of their writing, the way they form their words, it will all sort itself out. Okay, so we are at the end of our letter. The Mont Blanc 147 in Bordeaux with the fine nib did brilliantly. This is a lot of fun, this pen. It has 2 cartridges and a little gold sled, like a sleigh of ink. Look at that, pretty interesting. Probably shouldn't take it out just willy-nilly, but I wanted to show you. I don't post this pen, it's so pretty. I love the nib. It's just a great writer, makes a fantastic scribing noise, and it certainly did today. Okay, I am really postponing the inevitable here, so let's take a look at what we came up with. Take our guide paper away. Hopefully this comes through. So I'll try to hold it here. I think you can read this easier than you think you can. I think the letters traditionally are pretty clear. I think you can make this out. Let me give you a sense. Now, one of the things I absolutely love, and I hope you do too, is the symmetry of it. Now, do you see these letters as well? I certainly can, but I know my own handwriting. Can you see it too? Now, I could have been a little easier on all of you if I stretched the writing out. You can see I did a little bit more here where I elongated my letter forms just to make it a bit more obvious to fill up the negative space. But still, it's beautiful, right? Now, you would probably have to practice a bit with the act of seeing to sort of stare at it for a few moments, and the letters really do emerge. They're doing so for me right now, but there is a bit of sort of background noise with the letter forms from the other direction. But then as I turn it, the same thing happens. It's like a figure ground experiment, and those letters just sort of emerge. But it's really interesting. Now, what you would do next is fold it in on itself, which I'm not going to do because I want to hold this. I want to use this in some of my other videos as backdrop and B-roll. But you fold it and do a nice wax stamp and then send it to your love or to your friend or whomever it is that would get this. Just such a really fun letter. I might send some of these to my pen pal friends in the pen pal group for Illuminati and Cognoscenti members. Maybe I'll send this one to someone. That would be kind of fun. Then they get the one that was on camera. But definitely a fun exercise and technique that you can put in your repertoire of writing to your friends and your family. You don't have to do it all the time, but it's a nice thing to mix things up a bit. And you could use 2 different colors, which would make those letters pop out even more. So you can consider that as well. So what do you think of crosswriting? Is it something you would try? Or are you confounded by it and you see it as an affront to good manners and taste? Well, let me know in the comments because I would love to hear. And I do want to thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you've reached this point in the video, please subscribe. I'd love to have you on this journey with us. And you can see that we go to some amazing places. So why don't you join us? And if you'd like to support the channel even more, consider becoming a member. I'd love to have you behind the scenes. You could join the Pen Pal group if you're Illuminati or Cognoscenti level, and there's blooper reels and a lot of other fun things behind the scenes. So I make new videos each week. I have a live show each Tuesday night as well. So I can promise you, we will see each other again very, very soon, further up the road. So take care.